Congressman Murtha, to the president, who says what you have done today is, in his words, political theater.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. This really is disturbing that a president has overspent by $100 billion the original budget that he had affected to him. He's asking us for money, and he's saying this is theater. Let me tell you, we had a number of veterans who were elected. All of us believe the same thing. You take care of the troops. This president has forced his commanders to send troops back before they're ready, without the training they need, without the equipment they need. He's forced the troops not to spend a year at home. He's forced the troops to be, he's forced the commanders to extend the troops in order to follow his policy. This is not Petraeus' policy. This is not Casey's policy. This is his administration's policy. He's overspent, and now he wants us to get him out of the hole. He's trying to blame us for his problems. This is the president's problem. He needs the money, and he's going to have to deal with us.
He says you've abdicated your responsibility because you know he's going to veto this, and so why go forward with this when you know in the end it's not going to go anywhere in any case?
I'll tell you something, Wolf. He may say he's going to veto this. He's the one that's overspent. He's the one that spent too much money. He's the one that needs the money. This president is always blaming somebody else. First he blames Saddam Hussein, then he blames the Iraqis, then he blames the Democrats, then he blames me. This is a bill we feel very strongly about. What he's done is force this country to make sacrifices, meaning the troops make sacrifices. These troops doing everything they can do. He said mission accomplished. He said so many things during this whole thing. It's hard to know when you believe what's going on. For instance, he said mission accomplished. Mission hasn't been accomplished, and he needs the money. So he's going to have to deal with us on this issue. He's going to have to find a way to have benchmarks. We want the Iraqis to take over this war. Let me tell you, my great-grandfather, Wolf, served in the Civil War. I've got his hat in my office, and we fought our own Civil War. Our troops are caught in a civil war.
Practically speaking, Congressman, the Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, other administration officials say if you don't have this money passed, this spending bill, $120 billion or so, passed by mid-April, he's going to have no choice, he says, but to keep U.S. troops deployed in Iraq even longer because he won't have the funds to train new ones.
Wolf, he's the guy the president's the person that's put us in this spot. He's the one. Now he's trying to insist that we pass this legislation. I mean, look, we're willing to take care of the troops. We put more than the money that he requested in this supplemental. We put $4 billion more. But he can't have it all his way. He gets out there and he says, okay, we're going to veto this bill. Well, I'm going to tell you, he has to deal with us. It's not that easy. And we're going to come up with a bill that we can live with and that he can live with, and we're going to take care of the troops. But it's not going to happen on his terms.
What do you say to the president who spoke about what he called your pet spending projects, money that has nothing to do with the war in Iraq or Afghanistan, but for fishermen, peanut storage, spinach farmers, the milk industry, that you've attached all this other funding into this legislation, which has nothing to do with the emergency spending needed for the war?
This was all left over from the last Congress, the Republican-controlled Congress. This was all left over. The Katrina spending, the BRAC spending, all these things were left over. And he's trying to blame the Democratic Congress from funding things that needed to be spending in an emergency fashion. Let me tell you something. These political speeches don't solve the problem. We have to work together. But he can't spend more money than he's been authorized and appropriated and then expect us to just turn around without any accountability. He's going to be accountable for every cent. I was falling all over contractors when I was in Iraq the last time. We took 5%, which is $800 million out of contractors. We want to know how many contractors. We want to know how they're spending this money. We want to make darn sure he's accountable to the American public. That's our job under the Constitution.
Where's the compromise on this? Because obviously in the end you're going to have to fund the troops. Where do you, in the Senate, you're going to have to reconcile your language with the Senate language. That'll go to the president. He's threatening a veto. Where do you see this ending?
Well, I'll tell you, he needs the money. He has to have the money. He's the one that puts the troops over there. He's the one that overspent the amount of money that he had coming to him. So he's the one that's going to have to decide what the compromise is. We're willing to compromise, but I'll tell you this, we're not going to compromise on his terms.
Well, what happens in this scenario? He vetoes the legislation. The troops suffer. Are Democrats nervously going to await the reaction?
Wait a minute, Wolf. He's the one that put us in this position. He's the one that overspent. He's the one whose policy has forced the commanders to break the very rules, the guidelines that they have set forward. For instance, the troops have a guideline, being at home for a year, being trained and equipped before they go. They're going to send troops into combat that aren't trained and equipped. That's unacceptable to Congress and the public. 80% of the public supports what we're trying to do in the Congress, and we'll go to face this in conference. I'm looking forward to a good, solid political conference.
We'll see what the Senate comes up with. They have their own problems on the other side of Capitol Hill. Congressman Murtha, always good to have you here in the Situation Room.
Good talking to you, Wolf.
The White House may have set an Iraq deadline, but